Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here from ZooBox, and today we got a movie review. Today we're going to be taking it back. We're going to be talking about something a little more niche. Not for everybody, but for those that it's for. Oh boy. Today we're going to be talking about 1994's straight-to-video Scanner Cop.
Los Angeles.
How's it going, Kim?
Without warning. Without mercy. They're killing cops.
My men are dying out there.
And only one man has the power to stop it. And now, law enforcement has a new weapon.
He's a cop, and he has incredible psychic power. How did you do that?
Power of suggestion.
On the case against a criminal mind.
These men were imprinted with the command to kill.
Only one cop
Scanner.
can blow it wide open.
So, Scanner Cop. If you guys don't know, I'm a big fan of the film Scanners. It's a very imperfect movie, but it's got a lot of things I really enjoy. I really enjoy David Cronenberg's kind of his POV, his perspective. I like the cold, dispassionate, dystopian, kind of subversive sci-fi stuff that he does. It's a movie full of plot holes and contrivances, but a lot of fun stuff. It's got a nice texture to it. It's got the plot. The actual plot is kind of cool. It's got Michael Ironside being fucking rad.
All right. We're gonna do it the Scanner way. I'm gonna suck your brain dry. Everything you are is gonna become me. You're gonna be with me, Cameron, no matter what. After all, brothers should be close, don't you think?
Being Michael Ironside in a very early role for him. It's kind of what set the stage for the rest of his career, honestly. And it's awesome. So I enjoy it. First, a lot of the reasons I enjoy Scanners is because I'm very forgiving of it and kind of in spite of itself a little bit. But there's a bunch of sequels. There's 4 sequels to Scanners. And I had never really seen them or really knew too much about them until recently, or so I thought. I think I had kind of seen them in the periphery of my life when I was like a kid, not really knowing what they were. Because these are basically made for home video movies. You know, they were there to be able to put up at a rental store. People go browse and be like, oh shit, look, it's Scanners 2. Oh, look, it's Scanner Cop. And they just kind of make that association. There's no real previews except for what's playing at your local video store. You know, they used to have like a TV screen up there, be just playing the trailers for the new releases and stuff. That would probably be like your only interaction with it, in terms of like understanding what it was. So you wouldn't understand the quality of it. You would just be like, oh shit, I like Scanner. I remember Scanners. Oh, I haven't seen Scanners in a while. Scanners 2. Oh, this looks really cool. This seems like it could be something very interesting. So that's how a lot of people would end up seeing these movies. And then they would play on cable afterwards. Like I thought I had never seen Scanner Cop. And I ended up kind of blind buying it. I had some credit at like an online store, and I kind of just pulled the trigger on Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2. Now I got the whole family. I own all the Scanner movies now. I got the whole franchise, the whole legacy. Okay, you're not going to catch me slipping on Scanner stuff. I got it all. I've been watching them all. So I ended up picking this up, thinking I had never seen it, but it actually kind of rang a lot more familiar than I thought it would. So I probably did see it at some point. Probably saw it on like Showtime, probably late at night. I used to just watch a lot of crappy, what were direct-to-video, direct-to-cable action movies, like, you know, a lot of karate stuff, a lot of kung fu shit, a lot of bad stuff like American Ninja, you know, things like that. You know, I spent a lot of time in my youth watching those movies, so I think Scanner Cop was probably in that time period. I would have seen it. I would have watched it. But so coming to it now, I knew what it was. And it was kind of a funny thing. It's almost kind of made me laugh. Like it's like a direct-to-video the third sequel to Scanners, and it has like this gorgeous 4K transfer, and it even has like special features and commentaries and all this kind of stuff. It's just, we live in such a wild world of movie fandom, you know, because this wasn't like the cheapest thing I've ever bought. So yeah. But anyways, I knew what it was coming to it. And when you know what something like this is, you can kind of, you know, you can get ready. You can prepare yourself for the caveats, to take it on its own terms, really. That's really more what I'm talking about. I guess caveats is probably not the right way to put it. It's just taking the movie on its own terms. It is a direct-to-video sequel to Scanners that had a limited budget, produced in Canada, mostly in the tradition of David Cronenberg's Scanners. And it was, you know, made for, like I said, kind of low budget. The guy that was involved with it, Pierre David, this is his directorial debut. But the thing is, he has a connection to the original Scanners. He was one of the original producers on Scanners. And he is the one that produced and put together all of the sequels. He was involved with all that kind of stuff, both as a writer and a producer and now as a director. So, you know, the legacy of Scanners is intact. Like, there's connective tissue going throughout the entire series, even though they all kind of get, you know, progressively sillier, I suppose, or progressively lame. I don't know if it's like silly is the right way to put it. Scanners 2 and Scanners 3 are not great. Scanners 3 is better than Scanners 2. But, and well, maybe someday I'll do a video about those, but like they're kind of just lame. They're kind of just lame movies, and the quality of the direction it's apparent that they look like they're made for cable movies. There's kind of like this flat look to them that's just not very dynamic or cinematic, and in Scanner Cop is no different, actually. I would say, honestly, watching it on 4K, if you had never seen it before and you weren't somebody that just liked to collect stuff like that, probably not the medium to watch it on. Honestly, this should be watched on like a VHS tape. If you want to get like the authentic look, even though there's actually some impressive set design, there's some impressive cinematography. Occasionally, there's a few like reveals and a few fun moments that actually look really cool. But beyond that, like it kind of takes away like the gritty texture that they're trying to achieve. They're trying to accomplish. Like if they're showing LA, there's a scene where they're just kind of showing the cityscape, and there's some voiceover that's a little bit like more ominous and serious. Be like, look at this scum city, buddy. You gotta watch out.
Take a look out there. It ain't pretty. If you want to survive these days, you got to keep your eyes open and see below the surface.
But it doesn't look really that grimy or gross with the with the transfer. With the transfer, it kind of just looks normal. And then they end up running down the most normie looking drug dealer, and that's just trying to sell some drugs to some kids, and they book him. And he's like, "See, look at these scumbags," and it just looks like, and they're just like kind of look like average. They're average people. They're just like day players.
Oh, man, I got rice. What'd I say? Welcome to the neighborhood.
They're not like hardened criminal looking dudes. Even like the kids buying the drugs don't look like, you know, junkies or anything like that. They just look like regular people. So you can see like the limitations of the budget, and the 4K transfer actually like kind of highlights that a little bit. But like I said, if you come to it though, if you come at it with the right frame of mind, Scanner Cop is actually a lot of fun. I like Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2, which we'll talk about maybe later this week or next week. I like it way more than I like Scanners 2 and 3. I do. I think it's just a better conceived story, because the other Scanners 2 and 3 kind of get like too messy and too plot heavy, and they're too involved, and they're just kind of, they get away from themselves a little bit. They're too broad in scope. But Scanner Cop is kind of, it takes it back to basics. It does a very simple story. I got a kid who's a scanner and he's, you know, his father was a scanner. His father ends up dying because of it. He gets adopted by a police officer. He grows up to be a cop, and then they need him to use his scanner powers to help stop this kind of these killings that are going on in the city. There's somebody targeting cops, and they're using some kind of mind manipulation, some kind of mind control stuff.
Sam, I never thought I'd have to ask you this, but you're the only one that can come up with what's going on inside of his head.
You want me to scan him? That means not taking my pills.
And so he's got to use his scanner powers, you know? And then he has to deal with kind of what that means and how that affects his life. It's actually a pretty good Scanners movie. And in terms of, like, you know, when you think about what a Scanners movie is and what the main character of the original Scanners, what they had to deal with, I would say it's kind of on par with that. It even feels a little familiar in that sense. Definitely not as good, obviously. Pierre David is no David Cronenberg. That's for sure. Because even back then, even David Cronenberg, who had to work with kind of a limited budget, he was pressed for time. A lot of people don't know in Canada, the government subsidizes a lot of the arts. And he was able to get like a grant. He was able to get a bunch of money at once. And they were like, hey, do you have a movie that you could like fully produce and make in like 4 months? And he was like, yes, even though he didn't really. He had an idea for Scanners, but he didn't actually have a script. That's why Scanners is a mess. Anyways, even under those constraints, David Cronenberg is much better director than Pierre David, because it kind of feels very workmanlike. It's very flat, like I said, for the most part. There are a few standout moments that actually I think look really cool. But the real star of the show for Scanner Cop, in terms of its value of going back to now, other than the fact if you're a genre fan or if you just have nostalgia for these kinds of movies, is the practical effects work. It's surprisingly really solid. They took a lot of the same lessons that they had learned on the previous Scanners movies, and it's a lot of the same crew and team. There's a lot of really fun Scanners stuff in it. A lot of fun, like, you know, mind crazy shit. Like the movie opens with one of the coolest effects, one of the coolest Scanner effects, where the guy thinks that, like, these voices, he hears all these voices in his head, and he thinks that the little faces are kind of protruding, popping out of his brain. It's like, you know, you could see kind of the edges around it, like it being a little cheap, but it's still kind of a cool effect. And I would say that about all of the effects, all of the Scanner stuff, even though you can kind of see the edges of everything, you can kind of probably intuit like how they did a lot of this stuff at this point. It still looks awesome. And then maybe that's just me. That's just a preference I have. I really love kind of the look and texture of practical effects. I will always take practical effects over CGI, because at least there's something there. There's something tangible, material. Like, I know somebody interacted with that, and it has like a real grounded feeling to it, in a way that CGI, even the best stuff, often feels kind of weightless and disconnected. There's a disassociativeness that happens, that uncanny valley aspect when you start getting to CGI that's supposed to be photorealistic. Unless it's supposed to be that way. Unless you're doing something like, you know, the Wachowskis did Speed Racer. It makes sense for Speed Racer to be like that. But, you know, if you were to try to do like Scanners, or actually what comes to mind is when they did the Hobbit movies. They did the Hobbit movies and they just made all the orcs CGI, even though they had orcs on set in costumes. Crazy shit happened. Crazy gross shit, because it was easier to do lighting and shit if they just weren't actually there. It takes work to have practical effects and dudes in suits, you know, just like that. Even the new movie, the new Predator movie, Prey, which I fucking hated. It's a bad movie. Anyways, most of the time you see the Predator, it's just a CGI creature, and you can tell. There's a few shots here and there, especially leading up towards the end, where it is definitely a person in a suit, but it just doesn't. The CGI mixed with CGI, and it just makes it look cheap and bad. But anyways, that's beyond the point. If you like that kind of stuff, if you just like that aesthetic, that 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s kind of aesthetic when it came to special effects, this would definitely be something to check out. Definitely something to check out, even as a novelty, even just for that stuff. Like I said, the plot is very simple. It's very straightforward. It's very predictable. There's nothing. You're not going to be very surprised, but it's serviceable. It's very serviceable. Some of the cast, Richard Grove, who I was very pleasantly surprised to see in this movie. You know, I'm not like a giant Richard Grove fan, but I do know who he is a little bit, because he was in a few movies that I used to watch like all the time growing up. Mostly, namely being Army of Darkness. He plays Duke Henry the Red in Army of Darkness, but I also used to watch him in, he's in Point Break. He's done a few other things too. He popped up a lot in the 90s, and I would see him around, and he also did some voice work. So it was cool to see him show up and like be like a regular dude. He's just, you know, because he's like the adoptive father in the movie, and Yeah, and it was kind of just funny to see him just play like a straight regular guy because I was just so familiar with him from Army of Darkness. Daniel Quinn, who plays the main character Sam Stasiak, he actually passed away a couple years ago. He passed away very young too, very tragic. But he's not good, but he's good for a Scanners movie. He's good for a Scanners antagonist or protagonist rather. He's really good as the protagonist for very specifically for a Scanners movie. And you have to go back to the original Scanners movie and look at the performance of the lead in the original Scanners, and you'll see what I mean.
The future? You murdered the future.
No. Like him.
It's as though he's been reincarnated in you.
There's kind of a flatness. There's like this overly innocent naivete and everything they deliver that's just like part of it's definitely a choice and part of it's just their range, their ability to be able to sell something like that.
You want me to scan him? That means not taking my pills. Why are you asking me to do this, Pete? You saw what happened to my father.
It's very entertaining. I get a kick out of stuff like that, so I think it works for the movie Scanner Cop. You couldn't take that kind of performance or actor and put him in really anything else, and it probably wouldn't work very well. The guy who plays the big bad, Richard Lynch. I remember him being around off and on. Another guy that you just kind of saw in a bunch of stuff growing up. So he's definitely like, a genre guy. Played bad guys in genre movies. That's kind of his claim to fame. And he's pretty good. Not given a ton to do. Kind of, they have like the A and B plot. Like the actual villain's plot feels very almost disconnected from the world the movie takes place in. Like they feels like everything is like separate. It's all off on its kind of sequestered off on its own. He's like he's a mad scientist kind of dude. It's like a mad scientist plot. Cause you would imagine, you're watching Scanner Cop. You're like, oh, well, the person that's making, brainwashing people and manipulating, well, it must be another scanner. Not so much. It's actually a dude, Richard Lynch, with a giant vial of green liquid that he injects into your brain or something, and then forces associations by showing you pictures. Yeah. You would think it would be a scanner. You would just imagine. You'd be like, oh, of course, it's a fucking scanner. No. So, shockingly enough, no. No, and he also has a sidekick played by Hilary Shepard, Xena. And Xena also feels a little cartoonish. She feels like she's in kind of a different movie. It's kind of like where it's almost like it was feeling like it was bridging the gap between the other Scanner sequels, like 2 and 3, which are a little bit more overtly goofy. Almost, you could say, like comic booky.
You shouldn't have scanned me, Sam. I was on my way to hell. Now you will take my place. Oh, and I can't wait to take a man's body.
And she feels like she would be like a holdover from those movies because this movie, as goofy and as wild as it is slightly more grounded. It does feel more street level. It's not concerning itself with like the other Scanners that's very broad, top level. The fucking government's looking after everybody. Black helicopters in the sky. They're trying to blow each other's brains up in malls. Scanner Cop is just way more straightforward than that. And that's actually, it benefits from that. It benefits from that perspective because it kind of made the concept fresh again in a weird way, by kind of taking it back to basics. Cause like I said, with 2 and 3, it goes really off the rails. But yeah, if you like Scanners and you just have a taste or a tolerance, or you have nostalgia for these kind of movies, cable movies of the early 90s, paid cable movies. I'm not talking about like TNT or TBS or whatever. I'm talking about like Showtime movies. That's what it reminded me of the most. That kind of deal, that kind of stuff. And I had a lot of fun. With it. I'm glad, very pleasantly surprised with this edition Vinegar Syndrome put out. Very pleasantly surprised, and I've watched it like a couple times. So there you go. I was just kind of bored earlier this afternoon because I watched it when I got it like a couple weeks ago, And then I was just kind of had nothing to do this afternoon. I had like 2 hours to kill, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get my money's worth out of that Scanner Cop 4K. I'm going to be spinning that disc again. Be spinning it again. Be watching nothing but Scanner Cop from here till the apocalypse. Every Friday night, Scanner Cop. Scanner Cop time, baby. Pa-pow, pa-pow. Do you feel that? Did you feel that? Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scan you. Yeah, there's a lot of great, fun scanner stuff in it, too. Like, there's a moment where he has to, like, he takes over, like, computers and shit. That's something I actually kind of forgot. I forgot about the scanner movies, is that they can also interface with tech, like, technology stuff. And he's, like, takes over, like, they're trying to use a computer program to build, like, a face. So, like, for, like, a wanted poster type thing. And he has to, like, take over with his mind. He's like...
No, not that. Flat. Isn't there some faster way to do this?
If I don't feed Betty an image, she won't know what suspect to pull up now, will she?
Excuse me.
Hey, what?
Hello, Betty. My name is Sam.
While he's trying to shape the face of the person that he saw in his dreams and his scanning, while he was scanning somebody. That's the thing also about scanners that I've always, scanners can do a lot more than you think they would. They can kind of do whatever the plot requires them to do at a certain point. They're just like, well, yeah, he's got to find the files. So, obviously he's going to be able to, he's going to be able to read the mind of the computer because we got to get those files. How else are we going to get those files? I mean, come on. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff like that. Like, it's a very fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't know where you can watch it outside of getting this, though. I saw that I don't know where you can watch it. Maybe we'll have to remedy that. But I used to be on YouTube, and I know there was a copy, but it was like in a different language. It was like dubbed in Spanish, the one that was on YouTube, because it wasn't like readily available for a long time. So that's what kind of made this edition special. Is that somebody actually not only re-released it, but took gave it some TLC. But yeah, kind of hard to find a copy of it outside of this. I think this might be the only thing. There might be a DVD that it's part of. I'm not really sure. DVD set or something. At least in the United States. I'm not sure. You might not be able to find it at all in the United States outside of this release. But if you can find yourself a copy... If you are, if you know how to work the internet, if you know places to look, give it a go. Check it out. You might be pleasantly surprised. That's all I got to say. I'm done. We won, Cameron. We won. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, bunch of links in the description. Check them out, and we'll see you next time. Might be talking more Scanner Cop. Might be talking Scanner Cop 2. I don't know.